Hello everyone, my name is Eugene and today I'm going to tell you about one of the best fights I've had in gaming so far. The fight I'm talking about is against none other than Sister Friede and Father Ariandel from the Dark Souls 3 DLC. In my opinion, it's the best fight in the entire Dark Souls series. It took me 6 hours 40 minutes on my first playthrough, and that was after I had already streamed for 3 hours 20 minutes. Just getting to the fight and soloing the other boss along the way. So the whole stream and the DLC took me 10 hours. I want to break down this fight and walk you through my thought process during it. But before we dive into that, let me tell you a bit about the journey leading up to the fight. I had just entered the DLC and I loved it right off the bat. Wolves, giants, snow everywhere. It was perfect for my character, Eugene the Hollow, especially considering my outfit was very Game of Thrones-ish. To say the least, I loved the location. But to get to the final boss, you had to do some heavy lifting. The rope bridge? I'm looking at you, of course. If not for one of my great viewers' observation, I would have spent way more time trying to reach Friede. Thank you for noticing the flimsy bridge and telling me to try breaking it. After the bridge came a pretty interesting fight, although it turned out to be quite easy once I figured out you could stagger the wolf. Then we had to find a way to Friede, and it wasn't straightforward. But after 3 hours and 20 minutes of streaming, we finally made it to the final boss arena. Before that fight, a friend of mine who knows about my stubbornness told me, and I quote, "There is one girl you will definitely enjoy fighting in the DLC." That was before I entered the DLC, completely blind. You have to understand, I was streaming it for the first time. I didn't even know this was the final fight of the first DLC. Anyway, I got to the fight and deep down I knew we'd be there for a while. But honestly, at first I thought she was easy. I got to the second stage pretty fast. The fight was easy to learn and everything was going smoothly. Then more viewers started showing up and giving me some tips. I remember one of them saying this was one of the hardest fights, that Sister Friede gave them hell. I was beginning to understand that. She was pretty difficult, but I thought, once I learn the second stage, she'll be a pushover. One of the tips was to focus on Father Ariandel in the second phase, because I had been going for Friede the whole time. Now when it comes to my viewers' tips, I rarely pay much attention to them, but I'm just glad nobody spoiled the fun or revealed too much, so thank you for that. I was yet to discover something very fun about this fight. After nearly mastering the second stage, as with many bosses, the first stage started becoming the hardest one for me. I started losing time on what had seemed like the easiest part. Maybe I was just getting tired at that point, because let's be honest, I'd been streaming for a while already, and that day I'd worked all day too. It was already past my bedtime, but knowing me, once I start a fight, I have to finish it. So I pushed my limits, and finally, it happened. I defeated Friede and Father Ariandel in their second phase, only to discover this. That's it? Well, that was easy. Get up. Thought so. Phase 3. I remember thinking something like, oh, Phase 3. This is gonna be interesting. And then I got slapped straight back to the drawing board. Now, the thing with 2-phase bosses is this. I usually have enough time to master the first phase, but the second phase takes longer, because you need to get through the first one just to practice it. And then once you start getting the hang of the second phase, the first one becomes difficult again. But here, we had a third stage, and to even get to it and taste it, I had to go through 2 full punishing stages first, each one just as challenging as the last, and I didn't even know the strat for the third phase yet. Ironically, I think the third stage is actually the easiest, but because you have to earn your way there every time, it becomes a real challenge. Thanks to one of my viewers' tips, I learned that you could actually see where Friede jumped to when she went invisible in the first phase, so that phase became a lot easier. And the second phase, once I started focusing more on Ariandel and stayed patient, became child's play play too. The real problem was time. It took time to get to the third phase, and even more time if, like me, you were underleveled and wearing light armor. I had no room for error. Any major mistake before phase 3 and it was over. So in my mind, I had to perfect the phases, and that took time. You have to understand, I was streaming deep into the night, past my bedtime. I started to get worried. YouTube only archives 12 hours of footage, and I didn't want to lose any of it, so I had to act, and act fast. I remember getting to phase 3, trying my best, getting closer and closer. One person in chat was even praying for me. Thank you for that. But I couldn't let tiredness win. I had to push through. So during the final attempt, I remember thinking, this is it. I'm going to do this. Now or I go to bed defeated. And that was literally the last attempt I could do that day. Now, before that attempt, I'd been trying to do the first phase perfectly, hitlessly, just to save flasks and for the sake of style. Big mistake. I lost a lot of time because of that. I did manage a few hitless runs of the first phase, but then I'd lose instantly in the third. Every time I got hit early, I'd reset, thinking, I can do better. But then I was like, whatever. So on that final attempt, I stopped trying to be perfect. One could say I became like water. I actually got hit in the first phase, and I remember thinking, why am I trying to make this run perfect? I don't need that many flasks in phase 3 anyway. Maybe 1 or 2? Certainly not 10. So yeah, I gave up on being perfect and just went in. It wasn't too bad. Then came the second phase. I rushed in toward Friede right away. I learned that you had a small window to get some hits in before Ariandel came to his senses, so everything was going as planned. But then I made the first mistake when I got a bit too close to Father Ariandel as he turned around to smash me with his broken bowl. He hit me successfully, and with Friede's frost trail right behind me, I was lucky to evade. And then I remember making another big mistake. It almost cost me everything. I went in for Friede while she was trying to heal, missed my chance, and Ariandel came crashing with his heavy blows. But somehow I managed to roll my way out of it on low health. Pure luck. Praise iframes. Too bad Friede managed to heal a little, but that didn't stop me. I was determined. In my mind, I already knew how I'd handle phase 3. I went for Ariandel, threw in a few blows on Friede, and after cornering Ariandel, I landed the final hit. Phase 2, done. I walked up to Friede lying on the floor and told her to get up. I didn't have much time left, and that's when the real fun began. There was zero room for mistakes now. I had learned, painfully, that one of her attacks in his face could kill you instantly. She basically chops your head off. But I also learned it's not too hard to dodge if you're precise, and that gives you a small window to hit back. So I waited, dodged, watched, struck. Her third phase is brutal. She is savage, but through patience and determination, I brought her down to very low HP, and that's when one of the most intense moments I'd ever experienced began. What seemed like imminent victory suddenly became a grind. She wasn't ready to fall. She actually started playing more defensively. She dodged everything I threw at her. At one point she almost got me, but I slipped away. I could not lose then. It was one of the most intense minutes I'd ever had, but I stayed calm, composed. I waited for the right moment, and then it came. She lunged, I dodged, and that's when I knew it was over. Or was it? After landing the final blow, she fell. I felt victorious, but I remember thinking, that was such a good fight, and I kinda wished for a phase 4. But alas, I emerged victorious. At least I could sleep peacefully that night. Thank you everyone for watching, and as always, stay tuned, stay strong, see you on the next one. Well, that was easy. Phase 4? No? Why not?